when it came to me naming this podcast venture that I am on the cusp of, my producer asked me what I'd like to call it, and I said immediately, the Liminal Zone Alchemist. And she looked at me with this mixture of like terror and perhaps pity. And she said, I'm not sure that anybody is going to understand what that is. And I get it. These sound unfamiliar, these words. The reason that I stuck with it is that while the words may sound unfamiliar, the concepts behind them certainly won't. And there is no better way of me describing my purpose in this world, of me articulating what it is that I do or what it is that I hope for this podcast than these words, the Liminal Zone Alchemist. So I thought it was probably a good idea for me to explain what the hell that is. Before I was a full-time coach, I was an architectural interior designer, and in my postgrad studies, and indeed as I was moving towards my master's, I knew that what I wanted to study was the liminal zone. The liminal zone is, in anthropology, it would be called a rite of passage. In design, in interior spaces, it's called a threshold. It's the space between two spaces. It's moving from one room, one volume, one way of being to another. It's moving from one time of life to another. An example of a liminal zone may be when you become a mother, or it may be as you transition into teenagerhood, or it may be when you have a quantum leap in personal development. It may be when you change jobs, transitions in life from one to another, that space right between. If you're a fan of children's books, C.S. Lewis writes about it in The Magician's Nephew as the woods between worlds. It is neither one place nor the other, and it's forever fascinated me. It fascinated me in anthropology that people believed if you were buried at a certain age on a birthday, alive, underground, and I'm very sorry if that's a trigger for some of you, that the process of rebirth, of being dug up and brought out again, that liminal space, that changed you. I mean, frankly, being buried underground would change me. But I offer you that to say that this is not a new thing. The words may be new, it may be all terribly clever and Western, but the process, the knowing, the goo of the liminal space is something that I have yet to meet a human that cannot relate to. That stickiness, that hot messness, the betweenness, the confusion, sometimes the overwhelm, this is not supposed to be happeningness. Well, I believe that that's the space of creation, that goo that we find ourselves in, that kind of sticky, unpleasant, hot mess, the deep rest, the seasonal ebbs and flows of our body, that period of time, the in-between space, is where the magic happens. So I've always been fascinated with it. I was fascinated with it in design, and now I'm fascinated in a much deeper way. Even before design, I studied about this in anthropology and psychology and all the things. It's a beautiful space, and it's where I find myself again and again, and it's where I find my clients are again and again, because while we're in that liminal space, we're evolving, we're changing. Change is what humans do. Resisting change is what a lot of humans do, but that's why I'm here to help you. And in terms of the alchemist, I love the hero's journey. I love this. Campbell, was it? John Campbell? I should really remember that. the hero's journey. I love this concept of beginning in one space and finding yourself at the end of it, having alchemized, my words, not his, but having used the skills and the learning of the journey to fulfill the journey. But for me, the secret in the alchemy is not so much that we can move things in state, if you like, in our perception, from what we may perceive as something negative, some lead, some icky bit of nasty, and find the side of it that is the gift, that is the gold. That's, yes, that's the functional alchemy, the magic that happens between those two spaces. Guess where it happened? In the liminal zone, of course. But that's, wow, that's so vitally important. The most magical part of alchemy for me is what we choose to do with those gifts when they have been alchemized, when we have learned what we can from our life. And some of those learnings may be uncomfortable. They may encourage us to look at things in a different way when we don't want to. They may ask us to see that acceptance is not the same as approval. They ask us in this transition to prioritize ourselves. And by putting ourselves first and finding the gift, not in a positive psychology way, oh, it'll all be fine, don't worry, it's worse for someone else, not like that at all. With sincerity and compassion for ourselves, to find the skills that we have because of the life that we've had, because of our lived experience, because of our epigenetics, what we've inherited, because of what culture has taught us, which none of that may have been fun. You may not wish for any of it again, or wish it on anybody else. But the ability to take what works for you from that and let the rest go, that first part of the alchemy is highlighted and emphasized and made so much more by the drive that I see within that alchemy to share the gold. Because we all have a choice, right? We can do all of these things and it can help us and benefit us and maybe help our family through us. And for sure, the work that you'll come to through these podcasts, the ability that you will have to regulate your central nervous system and to manage your mind, of course, these will all be of benefit to other people. Just someone sitting next to you on the bus is going to have a more pleasant time because you require nothing from them. You are self-sufficient emotionally. So yes, of course, people will benefit whether you choose to actively share or not. But what I have seen again and again is that once we go through this process, what we learn is such gold, we almost can't even help but want to share because we're aware that we're human. And that awareness allows us to see the humanity of others. So what has helped us is likely to be able to help others. That is everything. That, whether you choose to share or whether you don't, that alchemaic process of moving through the liminal zone, that genius, that inner genius that is allowed, the us that we are allowed to be, that we get to share, whether or not a helicopter decides to fly over our house. This is how we impact the world. Not in the things that we do, but in the who we are. We are always us, but we get to choose to leave the things that don't serve us and to lean into the pull of our purpose, which will naturally encourage our inner genius, which will naturally bring us as us to the fore. And you're worth doing the work. You're important. This process of moving through the liminal zone, moving through the goo, through the magic, the fibrous creation of life, with the learnings from the past, is the process of alchemy. The gifts, the gold that you get when you do this work, because nobody else can do it for you. They're your gifts. They're your treasure. But they're waiting for you in your own back garden. You don't have to go seek them from somebody else. No comparison, no following. Sure, you can choose your guides, just as in the hero's journey, a mentor is chosen. I'd love to be your mentor. And if I'm not right for you, that's okay. But choosing a mentor, one whose values resonate with yours, allows for a much more friction-free journey through the goo, because you have someone who can hold space for you to give birth to the version of you that you already are. And I know that sounds really twisted. Give birth to the version of you you already are? What the fuck? But I think you know what I mean. I'm pretty sure you do. So the Liminal Zone Alchemist, that's me. That was me in design. And that's me as a coach. I am your guide through the goo. I am the alchemist who teaches the skill of alchemy. I will not alchemize your stuff. You will alchemize your stuff. That's how it's sustainable. That's the power. This is not a one and done. You get this skill forever, for the rest of your life. And I'll tell you, if you use it, the rest of your life is going to be exceptional.